The night was too beautiful to be this cruel. The moon hung full and crimson, bleeding light over the marble courtyard of the Blood Moon Palace. Silver flames danced in crystal bowls, casting ghostly shadows on the ancient stone. Every corner of the grand hall glimmered with anticipation, the celebration of a union written in prophecy. Luna stood at the altar, her hands trembling against the delicate silk of her gown. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears like a storm trapped inside her chest. She could hear the whispers of the nobles gathered to witness the binding of the Alpha King and his fated mate. She had dreamed of this night her entire life. She had imagined his touch, his voice, the warmth of his eyes when he finally looked at her, not as a pack member, not as a healer's daughter, but as his queen. The scent of roses and burning sage filled the air, meant to bless their bond. But underneath it, she caught a different scent, something cold, distant, and unfamiliar. It was the scent of detachment. The drums fell silent. The priests lowered their torches. And there he was, Alpha Darius, the Lycan King. Tall, broad-shouldered, draped in the dark furs of his lineage. His golden eyes gleamed beneath the blood moon. The crowd bowed as he approached, but Luna's breath caught in her throat. Something was wrong. His aura, it wasn't reaching for hers. It wasn't wrapping around her soul like it always did. It was withdrawn. It was cold. He stopped a few feet away from her, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. The priest began the ancient words. By the will of the moon, we unite two souls, stop. His voice cut through the night like a blade. The priest froze. So did Luna. Every head turned toward the Alpha King. The silence that followed was suffocating. Darius took a slow breath, one that sounded more like pain than calm. His eyes met hers, and she felt the world tilt. I cannot accept this union. Her heart stopped. I, Alpha Darius of the Blood Moon Pack. He paused, his voice breaking ever so slightly before he forced the words out. Reject you, Luna. For a moment, she couldn't even breathe. The words didn't make sense. Reject her? Here? Before the entire court? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The crowd erupted, gasps, whispers, disbelief. Rejected? The prophecy said she was chosen. This cannot be, but Luna didn't hear them. She only heard the shattering of her heartbeat. Her body went numb, her eyes blurred, her chest burned, as if the bond itself had turned into fire, tearing itself out of her soul. She took a step forward, voice trembling. Darius, what are you saying? You can't, I must. His voice was rough, strained, and distant. You were never meant to bear this curse. My life, my throne, my bloodline, they would destroy you. She shook her head, tears spilling over her lashes. I don't care about your throne. I care about you. He flinched, just slightly, before his face hardened again. Then you care for a man who no longer exists. The words pierced deeper than rejection ever could. She fell to her knees, the sound of her sob swallowed by the whispers of the court. The priest stepped back, afraid. The guards looked away, ashamed. Luna tried to reach for him, but he stepped back as though her touch would burn him. The pain twisted inside her chest until she couldn't breathe. Her vision blurred. The torches flickered. In that single breath of silence, her bond snapped. It was like being torn apart from the inside, an invisible blade ripping through her soul. She gasped and clutched her chest, falling against the cold stone. The moonlight poured over her like pity. Darius turned away. He didn't speak again. He didn't look back. He just walked away, leaving her on the floor, broken, humiliated, and alone. Her trembling hand reached toward him, her voice a whisper. Please, don't leave me like this. But the echo that answered was the sound of his boots fading into the night. The celebration turned to mourning. The music died. The people scattered, afraid to be near the cursed girl who had been rejected by her fated alpha. When the last torch dimmed, Luna was still there, kneeling, silent, drenched in her tears. Above her, the moon began to fade behind the clouds, as if it too could not bear to watch her suffering. Her world was gone, her purpose stolen, her mate lost, and yet, in the faintest corner of her heart, something stirred. A heartbeat that wasn't her own. One, then another, 2 fragile heartbeats. Her trembling hand moved to her stomach, realization hitting her like thunder. No, she whispered. It can't be. But it was. She could feel it. 2 small lives growing inside her, glowing with warmth even as her own heart froze. Darius had rejected her, but the bond had already sealed its final gift. Life. She fell forward, clutching her gown, sobbing against the marble floor. Why, moon goddess, why give me this pain and then make me carry his children? Her voice broke, lost between despair and devotion. Because no matter what he'd done, she still loved him. She still felt him, every beat of his heart, every ghost of his scent in the wind. But now, she would have to live without him. That night, when the palace slept and the guards grew tired, Luna gathered what strength she had left. She tore away the heavy silk, dressed herself in plain garments, and wrapped her shawl around her trembling body. The mark of rejection still burned faintly on her skin, a scar that would never fade. She stepped into the cold, moonly forest. The air was heavy with mist. Wolves howled in the distance, their cries echoing through the valleys. Her bare feet touched the soil, and for the first time in her life, she didn't know where she belonged. She walked until dawn, until her tears ran dry and her body could barely stand. She crossed the river that marked the edge of Blood Moon territory, her dress torn, her breath shallow. Beyond this border, the Alpha's laws held no power. Beyond this, she was no one. And maybe that was mercy. She found an abandoned hut deep in the forest, its walls covered in ivy, its roof broken but shelter enough. There, she collapsed, the pain finally taking her under. As she drifted into unconsciousness, she whispered to the unborn souls within her, her voice soft as the dying wind. I will protect you, even if it kills me. The wind howled, carrying her promise into the night. Far away, in the palace she once called home, Alpha Darius stood on the balcony, staring into the same moon that had witnessed her tears. His golden eyes were empty, his heart heavy with secrets he could never speak aloud. He closed his eyes and whispered to the night, "Forgive me, Luna, before my curse destroys you too." But fate had already set its course. The rejected Luna had vanished from the Blood Moon Kingdom, carrying within her the secret heirs of the Alpha King, two children bound by both love and rejection, destined to change everything. The moon glowed brighter, painting the forest in silver light. And thus began the legend of the vanished mate, the woman who defied destiny and disappeared into the wilderness, hiding not just from her mate, but from fate itself. Because love, when broken by power, becomes the darkest kind of story. And Luna's story was only beginning. The forest whispered secrets only the broken could hear. Cold wind swept through the towering pines, carrying the faint scent of night-blooming flowers and old magic. The moonlight struggled to pierce the canopy, falling in trembling shards upon the earth. And there, beneath the silence of eternity, Luna lived. Days had passed since her world had crumbled. Weeks, maybe. She had stopped counting. The once proud daughter of the healer's house, now nothing but a shadow in the wilderness. Her reflection in the river frightened her. The girl who had smiled under the moonlight was gone. In her place stood a woman hollowed by pain, yet somehow still breathing. Every morning, she woke to the cry of crows and the ache in her body. Every night, she lay awake, tracing circles over her belly where two fragile lives stirred. They were the only reason she was still alive. The hut she had found barely stood against the wind. Its roof leaked, its walls groaned, but it was hers, a small corner of the world where no Nay could find her, not even him. Sometimes, when the rain fell hard enough to drown her thoughts, she would close her eyes and see his face again. The golden eyes that once promised eternity. The voice that had once called her name like it was sacred. And then, the sound of rejection. The echo of her name breaking against marble. Her chest tightened every time. She hated herself for still loving him. She hated how his ghost lingered in her veins, in her dreams, in every whisper of the forest that sounded like his voice. But hate was useless. The only thing that mattered now was survival. One night, as she gathered firewood beneath the old oak, her hand brushed against the earth, soft and warm. A faint shimmer of blue light pulsed beneath the soil. Old forest magic. She remembered the stories her mother once told, about the spirits of the wild who protected those the world had cast away. She bowed her head, whispering to the air, her voice trembling. "If you can hear me, please. Let me live. Let them live." The light glowed brighter, then faded into the roots like it had answered. And for the first time in days, she smiled. The forest became her companion. The wolves no longer howled at her, they watched her. guarded her. They sensed the power in her blood, the faint trace of royal lineage tied to the Alpha's bond she could never forget. Her body grew weaker as the moons passed, but her will grew stronger. She hunted when she could, drank from the streams, and learned the rhythm of the woods, when it slept, when it breathed, when danger came. She wrapped herself in furs and silence. Her long silver hair tangled in the wind. Her eyes, once bright with innocence, now carried the weight of sorrow and defiance. Every sunset reminded her of the palace she'd left behind, of the life that had been promised and then stolen. But she no longer wept for it. Luna had learned something in exile, that pain, when carried long enough, becomes strength. One evening, as she sat by the dying fire, a sudden sharp pain shot through her stomach. Her breath caught. She gripped her belly and gasped, the sensation both beautiful and terrifying. They were moving, her children. Her trembling hand pressed gently, feeling the flutter of life beneath her skin. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow this time, but of awe. "Hello, little ones," she whispered. "You're all I have now. But I swear, I will give you everything I am." The forest wind answered, soft and kind, rustling the leaves above her like a blessing. But peace in the wild never lasts long. That same night, the air changed. A strange scent drifted through the trees, foreign, metallic, dangerous. Luna's instincts flared. The lichen blood within her stirred, her senses sharpening like blades. She wasn't alone. Her pulse quickened. She rose slowly, scanning the shadows. The forest was silent, too silent. Then she heard it, the faint crunch of footsteps. Not a beast's tread, a man's. She froze. Her heart pounded as the scent grew stronger, a mix of steel, sweat, and something dark. Hunters. Her mind screamed. The kingdom must have sent them. Maybe Darius himself wanted her found. Maybe he couldn't bear the shame of her existence, or the secret she carried. She gathered her shawl and moved silently through the underbrush, each step careful, each breath controlled. The forest seemed to guide her, roots shifting just enough to hide her tracks. Behind her, voices whispered. She was last seen near the northern ridge. If she's still alive, the king wants proof. Proof? Or her head? Luna bit her lip, holding back a sob. The king. Her heart twisted. Did Darius really send them? Did he want her dead that badly? Her tears threatened to fall, but she couldn't stop. She ran deeper into the woods, every rustle of leaves echoing her fear. Hours passed. The night grew colder. At last, she found refuge near a waterfall, hidden behind a curtain of mist. The roar of water drowned the sounds of pursuit. She sank to her knees, shaking, her hands cradling her stomach. It's okay, my loves," she whispered, rocking gently. "No one will take you from me." Her voice broke on the last word. When dawn came, she slept beside the waterfall, her body weak, her spirit trembling, but alive. Days turned to weeks. The hunters never found her. Perhaps the forest truly had accepted her as one of its own. Seasons shifted. The air grew warmer, and her belly grew round. Life had returned to her face, and though loneliness followed her like a shadow, she carried it with quiet grace. She began talking to her unborn children as if they could hear. "You'll have his eyes, I think," she said softly one night, tracing gentle circles over her stomach. "Golden and fierce. But your hearts. I'll make sure they're kind. Kinder than his." Sometimes she laughed softly at herself, a ghost of her old self returning in fragments. But at other times, when the moon rose high and the world slept, she would still cry. Quietly, secretly, because no matter how far she ran, she could not escape the bond. In dreams, she still felt Darius near, his scent, his warmth, his voice whispering her name. She would wake with tears on her face and his name trembling on her lips. Darius? The forest never answered, until one night, it did. A distant howl split the silence. Not a wild wolf, a lichen, strong, commanding, familiar. Her heart stopped. She knew that sound. It was him, Alpha Darius. For a moment, the world spun. Every heartbeat screamed his name. The forest itself seemed to hold its breath. She stumbled backward, her entire body trembling. No, it can't be him. He wouldn't, but she knew it was. The bond inside her, no matter how broken, still recognized him. He was near, closer than he had been in months. She didn't know if he was hunting her or if fate was simply cruel enough to bring him this close. But she knew one thing: if he found her now, carrying his heirs, she would never be free. She turned and fled through the darkness, her tears blurring the world. The forest branches scratched her skin, but she didn't stop. She ran until her body collapsed, her heart pounding, her soul screaming. When she finally stopped, she fell to her knees beneath the ancient willow, the oldest tree in the forest. The moonlight fell in soft beams through its hanging leaves. There, she whispered into the earth, "Please, hide me from him. Hide me until I can protect them." The ground beneath her pulsed faintly, the same blue light she had seen before spreading through the roots like veins. And then, silence. The howls faded. The wind stilled. She had vanished from his world once again. The forest had answered. And somewhere far away, under the same moon, Alpha Darius stood on the edge of the northern ridge, his heart heavy with an ache he couldn't name. He looked into the endless trees and whispered to the night, "Why'd I still feel you, Luna? Why can't I let you go?" But she was gone. Hidden by magic, protected by the wild, carrying within her the living proof of their bond, two hearts beating for the love he'd rejected. And though he didn't know it yet, fate had already begun to weave its cruelest thread. Because no curse, no rejection, no wall of magic could keep their destinies apart forever. The storm came without warning. Thunder tore the sky open, spilling red lightning across the forest. The wind screamed through the trees as though the moon itself was in labor with her. Inside the hut, Luna gasped, clutching her swollen belly. Pain rippled through her like waves of fire. Sweat clung to her skin, her breath uneven, her heart wild with fear and awe. Outside, the forest answered her cries. Wolves howled, winds shifted, and somewhere in the distance, the ancient willow glowed faintly blue. The spirits were listening. She had known this night would come. She had felt the pull of the moon growing stronger each day, calling her to deliver under its watch. But she hadn't expected it to be this soon, this violent. Her knees gave way as another contraction seized her. She clung to the old table for balance, her voice breaking. "Please, please, not now." The forest didn't listen. Fate never did. Rain crashed against the roof, dripping through the cracks. The smell of wet earth filled the air. Every flash of lightning painted her face in silver and shaw. Tao, beauty mixed with agony, strength forged in suffering. She fell to the floor, gripping the cold stone beneath her fingers, her teeth clenched so tight that blood touched her tongue. "Moon goddess," she whispered between sobs. "If you ever loved me, don't let them die." A soft glow flickered above her, faint, like the light of forgotten stars. The spirits had come. The wind calmed for a moment, just long enough for her to hear two heartbeats, fast, steady, alive. Her tears mixed with rain as pain took her again, deeper this time. She screamed, her voice echoing through the forest like a song of both life and loss. Hours felt like eternity. She moved between consciousness and fevered dreams, memories of Darius, the palace, the altar, his eyes when he said those cruel words. "I reject you, Luna." The memory cut deeper than any wound, but tonight, her body fought not for him, but for them. Her children. The storm howled louder. The ground trembled. The forest seemed to bend toward her as if guarding her from unseen eyes. Somewhere not far, under the same storm, men moved through the woods, hunters, again drawn by the strange light in the sky. They followed the blue shimmer like moths, unaware they were walking into the heart of ancient magic. And in that same moment, Luna screamed. Her body convulsed, the world blurred, and then, the first cry filled the night. A boy, his voice sharp and strong, echoing against the thunder like defiance itself. Luna sobbed in relief, pulling him close, her hands trembling as she wrapped him in her shawl. His tiny fists waved at the air, his eyes faintly glowing with gold. She barely had time to breathe before another wave of pain tore through her. She cried out again, clutching her stomach, biting her lip until blood ran down her chin. Minutes stretched into forever. Then, silence. And another cry. A girl. Softer. But her wail carried something otherworldly, a sound that made the fire flicker, the forest fall still, and the spirits hum low. Luna laughed and cried all at once, holding both children against her chest. "My moon, my stars," she whispered. "You're here. You're real." The storm began to fade. The clouds broke apart, revealing the blood-red moon above, glowing brighter than it ever had before. Its light poured through the cracks of the hut, bathing the three of them in crimson silver. The forest fell into reverent silence. The spirits whispered. And then, the mark appeared. A faint crescent shimmered on both babies' wrists, glowing the same hue as Darius's royal crest. Luna's breath caught. She knew what it meant. The moon had marked them, heirs to the bloodmoon line. No, she whispered, her heart twisting. You can't bear that curse, not you? She looked down at them, fear and love warring in her eyes. They'll come for you. If they ever find you, they'll take you away. She clutched them tighter, rocking slowly, whispering lullabies she barely remembered from childhood. You'll live free, she murmured. I swear it, even if I must vanish forever. Outside, unseen in the dark, the hunters drew closer, following the faint glow of the moonlight streaming from her hut. And far away, in his palace, Alpha Darius woke suddenly, breath shallow, heart pounding. The storm outside his window matched the chaos in his chest. He didn't know why, but he could feel something, two small flickers of warmth in the void of his soul where Luna's bond once lived. He rose from his bed, gripping the edge of the window as thunder rolled. What is this feeling? He whispered. Who are you? But the answer was carried by the wind, all the way to the forest where Luna cradled her newborns beneath the dying storm. Two hearts had been born beneath the blood moon. And with them, the prophecy he had tried to destroy had begun anew. The storm was dying, but the forest was not at peace. Boots crushed the wet leaves outside, whispers drifted through the fog, men searching, drawn by light they didn't understand. The smell of steel and smoke replaced the scent of rain. Inside the hut, Luna froze. Her newborns lay against her chest, their breathing soft and steady. The glow from their wrists flickered faintly beneath the blanket. Then, a sound. The unmistakable creak of a branch beneath a heavy step. Her heart stopped. They had found her. She rose weakly, her legs trembling, her body still bleeding and raw from birth. Pain was a shadow she could not afford to feel. She wrapped the children tighter, whispering prayers through trembling lips. Stay silent, my loves, please. Through the window's cracks, she saw them, 3 men in dark cloaks, eyes glinting under lantern light. Their scent was sharp, cold, woven. Spread out, one hissed. The light came from here. They moved closer. Luna backed away, her mind racing. The spirits had gone silent, the forest was holding its breath. Her gaze fell upon the old altar in the corner, carved with runes her grandmother once told her never to touch. Ancient symbols of travel, of binding, of sacrifice. The last spell of the bloodmoon line. She staggered toward it, clutching her babies with one arm, tracing the runes with her trembling fingers. Forgive me, but I can't let them die here. The door burst open behind her. Stop right there, one of the hunters shouted. Moonlight slashed through the air as the door swung wide. Rain dripped from their cloaks, and silver blades gleamed in their hands. Luna turned slowly, her eyes glowing faintly gold. You shouldn't have come here, she whispered. The eldest hunter sneered. A cursed Mega giving birth under the blood moon? The Alpha will want your head. Her heart twisted at the word Alpha. Darius's name burned in her chest like fire. The baby stirred, a faint whimper escaping the shawl. Wait, one of the men stepped forward, his voice softening. There's 2? But before he could finish, the air trembled. The runes on the altar began to pulse with light. Luna's voice deepened, echoing with something beyond human. The old words fell from her lips, words forbidden for generations. Moon above, river beneath, take what I give and let them breathe. The hunters raised their weapons, too late. A surge of white fire erupted from the floor, spinning through the air like wind and light combined. The walls cracked, the lanterns shattered, and the men screamed as the energy consumed them, hurling them backward into the forest. Luna cried out, holding her babies tight as the light surrounded her. Her hair lifted in the energy, her body weightless, her vision fading to silver and shadow. The spell was working, but she knew the cost. Her body was the vessel. Her life was the bridge. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her children one last time. You'll live, she whispered. You'll see the world I couldn't. She kissed their foreheads, her blood mixing with their tears. Forgive me, my moon and my stars. The runes flared one final time, and the hut exploded in silence. When the smoke cleared, the forest was empty. The hunters lay unconscious, their weapons melted by the heat of the spell. The hut was gone. The woman was gone. Only the faint glow of moonlight lingered, two orbs of soft gold drifting upward, vanishing into the night sky. Far away, miles beyond the forest, two infants appeared upon the banks of a river bathed in moonlight, untouched, unharmed, wrapped in a single shawl. The river carried them gently downstream, as if guided by unseen hands. The prophecy had lived, and in the palace, Darius staggered to his knees, clutching his chest. A burning ache tore through his heart, something between pain and recognition. What is this feeling?" he gasped. His wolf stirred restlessly inside him, howling against the walls of his mind. For the first time in years, the bond he thought broken, whispered back. He didn't know it yet, but somewhere under the same moon, his children had been born. And destiny had begun to weave its cruel threads again. The night after the storm was quiet, too quiet for a forest that had just survived the wrath of heaven. Mist lay heavy over the river, curling like ghostly fingers above the water. The moon hung pale and distant, watching the world it had just changed. And there, drifting on the river's silver skin, was a shawl. Inside it, two tiny souls, sleeping as though the chaos had nay. Veer touched them. The river carried them gently, as if obeying an ancient command. When the current slowed near the marshlands, an old woman appeared on the bank. Her hair was white as bone, her eyes like dusk, neither cruel nor kind, only knowing. She leaned on a crooked staff, listening to the water whisper names only she could understand. Then she saw them, two infants, bathed in faint gold light, their wrists glowing softly beneath the soaked cloth. Her breath caught. "By the old gods," she whispered. "The prophecy lives." She waded into the water, her hands trembling yet certain, and lifted the children from the current. The moment her skin touched theirs, warmth spread through her arms. For a heartbeat, she felt Luna's pain, the mother's final breath, the spell, the sacrifice. The witch, known once as Mara of the Hollow Veil, closed her eyes. So, she did it. The fool actually did it. Lightning flashed far away, a reminder that even destiny shuddered under such defiance. Mara wrapped the twins in her cloak and carried them through the forest, her feet silent, her thoughts storming. She reached her cabin before dawn, a crooked home built against the roots of an ancient oak. The air inside smelled of herbs, smoke, and something older than time itself. She laid the children on her bed of moss and whispered a spell under her breath. A soft blue light settled over them, sealing their warmth, calming their tiny hearts. "They are marked," she murmured, tracing the faint crescent on each wrist. "One carries the sun, the other the shadow. Balance within blood, chaos within fate." She looked toward the moon through her broken window. "Luna, you reckless girl. You gave them the world, and left me with the burden of hiding it." For years, Mara had sworn never to meddle with the affairs of alphas and packs again. But fate never respected oaths. The witch sighed and poured water into a cauldron, her reflection trembling. "If they find you, little heirs, they'll use you. The king will destroy you before he knows who you are." The boy stirred first, his tiny hand clenched, his brow furrowed as though he could already feel the pull of destiny. The girl slept with her palm over her brother's chest, her breath shallow but steady. Mara smiled faintly. "Strong souls. You'll need that strength where you're going." The night faded into morning. The first sunlight broke through the fog, painting the cabin in gold. And for the first time in years, the witch felt something she had forgotten: hope. Years passed like ripples on the river that had once carried them. The forest grew over the ruins of the old war, swallowing every scar left behind. Wolves rarely entered these lands now. They whispered that Hollow Veil was cursed, that the witch who lived there had bargained with Ath itself. But inside the crooked cabin, life still breathed, soft, warm, and defiant. Two children chased light through dust-filled beams that cut across the floorboards. The boy laughed first, wild and loud, his silver-tinted eyes catching every flash of the sun. His name was Aiden. The girl followed, quieter, her gaze sharp and deep as midnight water. She didn't laugh often, but when she did, it felt like the forest itself leaned in to listen. Her name was Saren. Mara had chosen those names from old tongues, words meaning fire and moonlight. She never told them of bloodlines or prophecies. Not yet. She taught them to read runes, to hunt, to listen, to the wind, to the trees, to the spaces between heartbeats. She told them stories of heroes who never returned, queens who turned into stars, and wolves who wept for what they'd destroyed. At night, she'd light the hearth and whisper, "Never trust the crown, my loves. Never trust those who wear silver and speak of fate." And though the twins didn't understand, they nodded solemnly. Children of secrets always learn faster than others. Aiden grew restless before his 10th winter. He ran too far into the woods, climbed too high, dared every shadow to chase him. There was something inside him, something that burned. One afternoon, he fell from a tree, scraping his arm on a jagged branch. Blood welled up, and the bark beneath his hand blackened, smoking as though fire had kissed it. He stared, trembling. Mara, the witch, came running, her cloak whipping behind her. The scent of burnt wood hit her nose before she saw the damage. "What did you touch?" she hissed. I didn't mean to. It just happened." She looked at the charred bark, then at him. His pulse raced beneath his skin, faint red light shimmered where the wound should have been. The mark of the solar air. She swallowed hard. "Listen to me, Aiden. You must never let anyone see that. Do you understand?" "But why?" "Because men kill what they don't understand." The boy's eyes filled with confusion, fear, and a spark of pride he didn't yet comprehend. Saren's gift came slower, quieter. One night, when storms rolled over Hollow Vale, she woke to Aiden crying out in a nightmare. Without thinking, she reached for his hand, and the air around them dimmed. The lightning's glow faded, the thunder hushed. It was as though the storm had stopped to listen. Aiden's breathing calmed instantly. When morning came, Mara found them both asleep, the candle beside them untouched, its flame frozen mid-curl, still alive yet unmoving. The witch shivered. Shadow magic. Moon's embrace. The gift of her mother. She whispered to herself, they carry both halves. Sun and moon, life and death. The world won't be ready for them. As the years turned, the twins grew into youth. The Forest could no longer contain their curiosity. They asked about the villages beyond the river, about the packs that howled in the far hills. Mara always turned away. Out there, they still hunt for what was lost. But one morning, Saren found an old parchment beneath the witch's bed, a royal decree, edges burned but words still legible. By command of Alpha King Darius Vallon, all traces of the Bloodmoon line are to be erased. Her heart stilled. She didn't know the name, yet something inside her recognized it. That night she dreamt of fire and silver crowns, of a man kneeling in rain, whispering, "Forgive me." When she woke, her hands were trembling. Mara noticed the change first. The twins began to move in rhythm, one's laughter followed by the other's sigh, one's anger quieted by the other's calm. Their powers were fusing, becoming whole. And with it came echoes, visions that didn't belong to them. Aiden saw battlefields. Saren saw a throne room drenched in blood. The witch knew what it meant. The bond was awakening. The bloodline was calling back to its source. She spent sleepless nights tracing wards on their doors, mixing salt with ash, whispering to every spirit that still owed her favors. But fate is relentless. One dawn, the forest fell silent. Birds vanished. The river's song ceased. Mara stepped outside, feeling the old runes tremble beneath her feet. Smoke rose in the distance, black, deliberate. Hunters. She rushed back into the cabin. Aiden, Saren, you must hide, now. The twins looked at her, unafraid but confused. Mara gripped their hands. Listen to me. If they find you, they'll take you to the Alpha. He will not know who you are, but his blood will. It will sense you. Saren whispered, Who is he? Mara hesitated, tears stinging her eyes. The man your mother loved. The man who doomed her. A knock shattered the silence, 3 heavy blows on the door. Witch of Hollow Vale, a voice roared. By order of the crown, open this door. Aiden's eyes blazed faint gold. Let me fight. No, Mara cried. You're not ready. But the door cracked open anyway, splinters flying. Mara raised her staff. Run to the roots. Find the path of water. Do not look back. The twins hesitated for half a breath, long enough to see her smile one last time. Then the world erupted in light and smoke. The knock became a thunderclap. Wood split. Dust shivered from the beams. Mara turned once, her face half lit by the fire. Go, she hissed, voice sharper than the storm. Aiden grabbed Saren's hand, dragging her toward the trapdoor beneath the rug. They had practiced this path 100 times but never truly believed they would need it. The hatch yawned open to a tunnel of damp roots and whispering soil. Mara, Saren tried to speak, but the witch shook her head. I've LKED this life long enough, child. Let me hold them back. Run. The twins vanished into the dark as the door above exploded inward. Men in black armor poured into the cabin, torches in one hand, silver blades in the other. The scent of iron burned the air. Mara stood alone before the hearth. The years of exile fell away, her spine straightened, her eyes gleamed cold and endless. One hunter stepped forward. By decree of the crown, you're to be taken, alive if possible. She smiled, slow and terrible. Then you've already failed. With a twist of her staff, the fire roared to life. Flames spiraled upward, wrapping around her like a cloak. The hunters hesitated, they had heard the stories. Where are the children? The leader demanded. Mara's laugh was a crack in the air. Beyond your reach. Steel flashed. She moved faster. The cabin erupted into chaos, fire meeting silver, screams torn apart by light. Outside, beneath the earth, the twins crawled through the tunnel, every heartbeat echoing like a drum. Aiden's palms glowed faintly, lighting the way. Saren followed, whispering to the shadows to swallow their sound. Behind them, the world shook with Mara's last spell. Aiden stopped, looking back toward the rumble. She's fighting them. Saren's voice trembled. She's buying us time. They pushed on, dirt crumbling under their fingers, until cold air hit their faces, the tunnel's end opening to the riverbank. The night was thick with smoke. Sparks drifted from the trees like dying stars. Aiden turned to Saren. We can't just leave her. A cry split the distance, Mara's voice, fierce and breaking all at once. Run, my sun and my moon. Then silence. The cabin's light vanished. Saren grabbed his hand. We run. They plunged into the forest, the moon guiding their steps. Branches whipped their faces, the ground bled with ash. Behind them, the hunters regrouped, following tracks and scent. Hours blurred into dawn. When the twins finally collapsed beside a fallen tree, their breaths came in shallow gasps. Smoke still hung over the valley. No birds sang. Aiden pressed his forehead to the earth. She's gone. Saren's eyes glistened. She saved us. That means something. He looked up at her, seeing the resolve harden behind her grief. Even covered in soot, she looked untouchable, like the moon refusing to die before the sun. We can't stay here, she said quietly. If they find us, they'll finish what they started. Where do we go? Saren looked toward the faint outline of mountains in the distance. Away from the packs. Away from crowns. So they walked. They crossed rivers, hid in ruins, stole bread when hunger clawed too deep. Each day sharpened them. Aiden's power burned hotter, he learned to call light from his palms to keep the cold away. Saren's controlled grew darker. Shadows obeyed her voice, cloaking them from sight when danger came too near. Children no longer, they were survivors. Far from the Vale, in the silver-walled capital, Alpha King Darius stood on his balcony, sleepless. The years had turned his face harder, his eyes hollow. He had conquered 5 territories, united 3 packs, yet nothing silenced the echo of her name. That night, as the smoke from Hollow Vale drifted into the sky, he felt it. A pulse. 2 heartbeats that were not his, but carried his blood. He staggered, gripping the railing, breath sharp. What trick is this? He growled, but the beast inside him didn't answer. Instead, it howled, raw, desperate, alive. Darius pressed a hand to his chest. The bond he had buried long ago stirred again, whispering of what he had lost. Luna? He didn't know that far beyond his reach, under the same fading moon, 2 young hearts beat in answer. When the first sun of the new day broke over the mountains, the twins stopped at a cliff that overlooked the valley. Smoke curled in the distance where their home once stood. Aiden took a deep breath. She said we'd see the world. Saren nodded. Then we'll see it all. They didn't look back again. And somewhere, deep within the ashes of Hollow Vale, beneath the roots of the burned oak, Mara's voice lingered like a promise. When the moon bleeds and the king weeps, the heirs shall return. The wind carried those words across the mountains, straight toward the heart of the Alpha King. He turned his face to the rising sun, unaware that destiny had just begun to circle back. The mountains opened like gates of stone, and beyond them spread a world the twins had never seen. Silver towers pierced the mist. Flags of crimson and black fluttered above walls of carved marble. The city of Silvercrest shimmered in the distance, half sunlight, half smoke. Aiden stopped at the ridge, breathing hard. So this is the kingdom of wolves. Saren's eyes lingered on the horizon. It looks beautiful. He glanced at her. Everything beautiful hides teeth. Below them, roads wound like veins through farmland and villages, ending at the capital's great iron gates. Caravans rattled forward, merchants, travelers, soldiers. The scent of roasted grain and burning oil reached even here. They descended slowly, cloaks drawn tight, the years of running etched into every movement. Mara's old warnings echoed in their heads. Hide your glow. Hide your names. At the city gates, guards in silver armor watched every face. Their eyes glowed faintly, half-shifted wolves, trained to smell fear. Aiden handed over a pouch of coins they had earned on the road. For passage. The guard weighed the pouch, then nodded. Names? Rowan and Celine, Aiden said, voice steady. Saren, now Celine, kept her gaze. Lowered. The guard hesitated for a heartbeat, sniffing the air as if something about them felt old. Then he waved them through. Inside, the noise struck like a wave. Blacksmith hammers rang. Vendors shouted prices. Horses clattered across stone streets. The twins froze, overwhelmed by color and scent and motion. Saren whispered, we lived in silence all our lives, and now this. Aiden smiled faintly. Maybe silence was safer. They moved through the crowd, slipping into the rhythm of strangers. No one looked twice at the two travelers with forest dust still on their boots. They found shelter in the lower quarter, near the old temple that still smelled of incense and rain. An innkeeper, kind but cautious, gave them a small room with a broken window and a view of the rooftops. For the first time since Hollow Vale, they slept beneath a real roof. Morning came with the clang of bells. Aiden rose early, found work hauling crates at the docks. The sweat and noise grounded him, though every clang of metal sent fire through his blood. He kept his gloves on, always. Saren wandered the temple gardens, pretending to pray with the others, but her eyes traced the patterns carved into the marble, old runes, the same shape as those on Mara's staff. She felt them hum under her fingertips. An old priestess noticed. You have a quiet spirit, she said kindly. Saren bowed her head. I try to listen more than I speak. Good, the woman replied. The moon listens to those who listen to her. That night, Saren told Aiden what she'd found. He frowned. So even here, the old runes survive. They're hiding in plain sight, she whispered. Like us. They didn't see the shadow watching them from the alley, a hooded man, the mark of the royal guard stitched into his sleeve. Far above the city, in the palace built of white stone and regret, Alpha King Darius Vallon stood before his council. Reports from Hollow Vale, a general read aloud. The witch is dead. No survivors. Darius nodded once, expression unreadable. But later, when the council dispersed and the hall fell silent, he stayed by the window long after the torches burned low. The moon hung full and heavy. He pressed a hand to his chest where the old ache still pulsed. For 10 years he had chased silence, drowned himself in conquest, but the bond never truly died. Sometimes, in dreams, he saw eyes, one gold, one silver, staring back from the dark. Children's eyes. He whispered into the emptiness, if you live, forgive me. The wind answered with nothing but the echo of distant bells. The moon had not yet risen when Silvercrest began to glow. From the highest spires to the lowest alleys, every street shimmered with silver lanterns. The air throbbed with music, drums, flutes, laughter. Once a year, the kingdom celebrated. The Festival of Moonfire, a night when humans and wolves mingled under the same stars, pretending their ancient hatred was forgotten. For Aiden and Saren, it was their first time among so many hearts beating in rhythm. Saren stood at a balcony overlooking the square, her cloak drawn close, her eyes wide with wonder. Fire dancers spun below, leaving trails of light in the dark. The scent of honeyed wine and smoke drifted up, and for a moment, she forgot to hide. Aiden leaned beside her. You're smiling. She turned, startled. I am not. You are, he said softly. I haven't seen that since, before. She looked away, watching the dancers. Maybe tonight I can pretend the world isn't hunting us. Aiden's voice was low, threaded with something unspoken. We can't pretend forever. Her smile faded. I know. As the night deepened, the crowd thickened. The city's nobles arrived, their carriages gleaming with gold. The music swelled. In the distance, bells tolled 3 times, the signal that the Alpha King himself would soon appear on the palace balcony. The people cheered, waving banners bearing his crest, a silver wolf bound by chains. Saren's heart stuttered. He's here. Aiden followed her gaze. Then we keep to the shadows. But the universe had other plans. At the far end of the square, a group of children released glowing orbs into the air. They floated upward, each filled with tiny sparks of light. One drifted close to Saren, brushing her fingertips. She smiled instinctively, and in that instant, something inside her flared. The orb exploded in a burst of silver flame, bright as a falling star. The crowd gasped. The music stopped. For a heartbeat, every eye turned toward her. Saren's heart hammered. The mark on her wrist, the one Mara had bound with magic years ago, burned through the fabric of her sleeve. The air trembled around her like a living thing. Aiden grabbed her hand. Saren, stop. I'm not doing anything, she whispered, terror flooding her. The flames curled into shapes, wolves of light circling above them before vanishing in a shimmer of dust. The silence that followed was louder than any roar. Then came the voice of command. You there. Royal guards pushed through the crowd, armor flashing. Their scent, iron and dominance, hit Aiden's senses like a storm. Run, he whispered. They fled through the maze of streets, the noise of boots echoing behind them. Lanterns shattered. Bells rang. The festival turned to chaos. Saren's breath came in ragged gasps. They saw, Aiden, they saw. Keep moving. They darted into an alley, vaulted a wall, and landed in a courtyard thick with vines. The smell of roses and dust filled the air. Aiden pressed her against the wall, his hand over her mouth as soldiers passed by just beyond the gate. Only when the footsteps faded did he lower his hand. Her eyes glistened with tears. I didn't mean to, I know, he said, voice breaking. But now they'll hunt us harder. She shivered. Do you think he saw? Aiden's jaw clenched. The Alpha King? Maybe, but he doesn't know what he's looking at yet. Saren whispered, we can't stay here anymore. I know. They looked up at the same moment. The moon had risen, full and merciless, painting their faces in pale silver. For a fleeting instant, both felt the faint pull of something greater, the bond they'd never known but carried in their blood. Far above, in the palace, Darius Valen stood on the balcony, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. His advisors whispered about the disturbance, about the flash of forbidden power in the square. But he said nothing. His eyes, those dark, haunted eyes, were fixed on the spot where the light had bloomed. He whispered to the night, that energy. I've felt it before. Down in the city, the twins ran until dawn painted the rooftops in gold. When they finally stopped, hidden beneath the old bridge by the river, Saren collapsed to her knees. Her hands trembled. I ruined everything. Aiden knelt beside her. No, you reminded them the world still has magic. Tears slid down her cheeks. You don't understand. The runes, they woke. I felt her, Aiden. Mara's spell, it broke tonight. He stared at her, stunned. You mean, she's gone. Her protection is gone. The words fell like stones into water. Above them, church bells began to toll again, not for celebration this time, but for summons. The hunt had begun. The city did not sleep that night. Torches burned in every street. Bells rang from the palace towers. The festival's laughter had turned to whispers of fear. Some swore they saw a girl with silver fire in her hands. Others claimed the moon itself had wept light. But no one knew the truth. No one except the Alpha King. In the throne hall of silver glass, Darius Valen stood alone. The great wolf statues along the walls seemed to watch him as he poured wine into a cup and did not drink. His reflection in the dark liquid looked older than it should have, haunted, tired, yet burning with a question that had no answer. He remembered another night long ago, another moon, another glow. A girl in a white dress. A promise broken before the altar. And the scream that had followed him into every dream since. He closed his eyes. Could it be her blood that moved tonight? The door opened quietly. Captain Roan entered, bowing low. My king. The witnesses speak of twins. A young man and woman. Foreigners. The woman carries old power. Untrained but strong. Darius's fingers tightened around the cup until it cracked. Find them. Bring them to me alive. Roan hesitated. Alive, sire? The council will, I said. Alive. The growl beneath those words made the captain bow deeper. As you command. When the doors closed again, Darius exhaled, the weight of command pressing on his chest like stone. Somewhere beyond these walls, something he had lost was breathing again. Under the bridge, dawn spread thin light over the twins. Mist rose from the river, curling around them like ghosts. Aiden kept watch, every muscle tense, eyes flicking to every ripple in the water. Saren sat beside him, hugging her knees, her skin pale from exhaustion. The silence between them was thick until she whispered, "Do you ever wonder why she hid us? Why she made us live like shadows?" Aiden looked at her, unsure how to answer. Because the world would have killed us. But maybe it wasn't just fear. Her voice trembled. Maybe she was protecting someone else, not just us. He frowned. What do you mean? I saw a vision when the light broke. A man standing under the moon. Eyes like iron. He called my name, but not Saren. He said Luna's child. Aiden froze. You think it's him, the Alpha King? Her whisper was almost a sob. I don't know, but I felt something, pulling inside me. Like the world wanted me to remember him. Aiden's heart clenched. If it is him, we stay far away. Whatever he is, he's not family. He's danger. She nodded, though her tears glistened. Then why does it hurt to think of him? He couldn't answer. For days they hid among the city's forgotten corners, sleeping in warehouses, moving only at night. But Silvercrest was tightening its net. Posters appeared on every wall. Wanted, 2 strangers, a man and woman, witnesses to forbidden magic. Each morning the air grew heavier with the scent of iron. At dusk, when the bells tolled for curfew, Saren whispered, "We can't run forever." Aiden's voice was harsh from fatigue. "Then we'll fight." She caught his hand. "No, there's another way. The temple priestess said the moon listens. Maybe she knows who we are." Aiden hesitated, then nodded. "At dawn, we find her." The temple stood on the hill above the market, its doors carved with runes that shimmered faintly in moonlight. They slipped inside as the first light bled across the sky. The air smelled of sage and rain. The old priestess waited, as though she had known they would come. "You finally stepped out of the forest, children of the lost bond," she said softly. Saren bowed. "You know us?" The woman smiled sadly. "I know your mother, Luna of Hollow Vale, the true mate of the Alpha King." Aiden went still. "That's impossible. She died years ago." The priestess's eyes glimmered. "Bodies die. Bonds do not. The bond you carry still sings through the moon. Tonight, he will hear it." Saren's breath caught. "He? The one who rejected your mother and cursed his own heart. The one who hunts you now, though he doesn't yet understand why." Aiden's hands curled into fists. "Then tell us how to stop him." The priestess turned toward the altar, tracing a circle of light upon the stone. "You can't stop destiny, but you can choose how to meet it. The blood of Alpha and Luna must either unite or burn the kingdom down." Lightning flashed outside. Thunder rolled like drums of war. Aiden looked at his sister. "We need to leave." But Saren didn't move. She stared at the moonbeam that now fell across the floor, and in it, faint and trembling, 2 shadows appeared beside hers and Aiden's. One tall, one graceful. Their parents. Saren's tears fell silently. "He's coming, isn't he?" The priestess whispered, "Yes. The moon calls him, and he will not rest until he finds you." In the palace, Darius woke from a dream soaked in sweat. He had seen 2 figures by the river, one boy, one girl, and when they turned, their eyes had gleamed with the same gold-silver fire that had haunted him for years. He rose, voice hoarse. "Roan." The captain appeared within moments. "Seal every gate. Search the temples first." "Yes, my king." Darius's gaze drifted toward the east window where dawn glowed pale. Somewhere out there, 2 heartbeats called to his own, and for the first time in a decade, he felt afraid. Not of enemies, of truth. By nightfall, storm clouds gathered above Silvercrest. The twins prepared to flee beyond the river, but the city was alive with soldiers. Wolves howled in the distance, their voices carried by the wind. Saren turned to Aiden, whispering, "If they catch us, they won't. But if they do, promise you'll run, no matter what happens to me." He gripped her shoulders. Don't ever say that. We survived together. Tears shimmered in her lashes. Then run faster than the wind, brother. He managed a faint, broken smile. Always. Thunder crashed, and rain began to fall, washing the city in silver light. Far above, Darius stepped out onto the balcony once more. The storm drenched him, but he didn't move. His heart pounded to the rhythm of the rain. Somewhere in the city, two souls pulsed in perfect sync with his own. He whispered into the storm, "Luna, what have I done?" And the thunder answered back, "You are about to find out." Rain fell like shattered glass. Every drop burned against stone, washing away the music, the laughter, the life of Silvercrest. The city had become a cage of shadows and thunder. Somewhere beneath the screaming sky, two figures ran, breathless, soaked, hearts pounding like war drums. Aiden's cloak was torn, his boots slick with mud. Saren stumbled once, her hand slipping from his, but he caught her before she fell. "Keep moving," he shouted above the wind. Her lips trembled. "They're everywhere, Aiden." Behind them, the sound of howls ripped through the storm, low, furious, and close. The royal pack was loose. The streets burned with torchlight, and the scent of blood filled the air. Every alley they turned led to another barricade, another patrol. The city they once admired now hunted them like prey. Aiden's breath came ragged. "This way." He pulled her into a narrow passage between two crumbling buildings. The stone walls glistened, rain streaming down like tears. Saren pressed her back to the wall, clutching her chest. "I can feel him, Aiden, he's near." He turned sharply. "Who?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "The one the moon keeps showing me." Thunder cracked above them, shaking the world. Aiden looked at her, at the glow faintly blooming beneath her skin, the same silver fire that had betrayed them at the festival. He had spent his life protecting her. But now, the very thing he protected was waking inside her like a sleeping storm. Across the city, inside the palace war chamber, Alpha King Darius Vallon stood over a massive map lit by flickering candles. Water dripped from his hair, tracing down the scars along his jaw. "Two fugitives," Captain Roan reported. "Last seen near the river quarter. The girl's power is unstable, she could be dangerous." Darius's voice was a low rumble. "Dangerous, or divine?" Roan blinked. "My king?" Darius didn't look up. His fingers brushed the edge of the map, stopping over the river. "Every night, for 10 years, I've dreamed of light like hers. If the goddess has sent this sign, then I will not kill it." The captain hesitated. "If she is truly the daughter of Luna, then she is my daughter too," Darius said quietly, his eyes like twin storms. "And I will find her before the council does." Down by the river, the world had turned silver. Lightning tore the sky apart, illuminating the twins as they ran across the bridge. The wind howled through the arches like a chorus of wolves. Saren stumbled again, pain flaring in her ankle. Aiden stopped, turning back, but she pushed him away. "Go," she cried. "You have to go." He shook his head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." Her tears mixed with rain. "Aiden, you can't protect me from what's coming." A sudden roar echoed behind them, an enormous wolf, fur black as the void, eyes burning gold. One of Darius's elite hunters. Aiden turned, pulling the knife from his belt, but it was useless against a creature that size. The wolf lunged, claws flashing. Aiden shoved Saren aside. The impact threw him to the ground. Pain exploded in his shoulder as the wolf's jaws sank in. Saren screamed, the sound cutting through the storm like glass. Something inside her snapped. The silver light burst from her palms, bright and wild. The wolf was thrown backward, crashing into the stone wall with a cry that hook the bridge. Aiden stared up, dazed, as Saren stood over him, her eyes blazing like the moon itself. The rain turned to steam where it touched her skin. The wolf scrambled up, snarling, but before it could strike again, a voice thundered from the darkness. "Enough." The storm fell silent for one breathless second. From the mist stepped a figure in black armor, soaked to the bone, eyes glowing faintly under the hood. His scent hit them like thunder before his words even came. "Alpha." Darius Vallon. He stood a few paces away, his gaze fixed on Saren. The world seemed to hold its breath. The girl's light flickered, then dimmed. He took a slow step forward. "Who are you?" Saren's voice shook. "Stay back." But Darius only moved closer, the air around him pulsing with command and disbelief. When he spoke again, his voice trembled for the first time in years. I've seen that light before. Aiden moved between them, knife raised despite the pain. Don't come closer. Darius's eyes locked on his. For a moment, he saw something he didn't understand, a reflection of himself, younger, wilder, unbroken. And then it hit him. The scent, the pulse, the undeniable truth screaming through his blood. He whispered, almost to himself, blood of Luna. Saren's breath caught. How do you know that name? Darius took another step, his hand trembling. Because once, I loved her. Lightning split the sky. The bridge trembled beneath their feet as rain poured harder, and in that storm of truth and disbelief, the past and present finally collided. For a heartbeat, the world forgot to move. Rain froze midair, thunder hushed, even the river seemed to hold its breath. Three souls stood locked in silence, the Alpha King, the son who hated him without knowing why, and the daughter whose blood still shimmered with moonlight. Saren's voice was barely a whisper. You loved her? Darius's gaze flickered with ghosts. Your mother was light in a world made of steel. I was too proud to see it until it was gone. Aiden's knife glinted under the lightning. You're lying. The Alpha turned toward him. You think I'd lie about her? You killed her. Aiden roared, his voice cracking like a whip. You destroyed her, and now you hunt us. Pain rippled across Darius's features, raw, unguarded, not the mask of a king. I didn't know she lived, or that she bore my children. If I had, you would have chained us just like your people. Aiden shouted, like you chained her heart. Saren stepped between them, trembling. Stop, both of you. Her voice, though soft, carried a power that silenced the storm again. The glow in her eyes brightened, the same light Darius had once seen in Luna's gaze on their wedding night. It pierced him deeper than any blade. Tell me the truth, Saren said, her lips tremble. Why did you reject her? Why did you cast her out? Darius looked down, rain dripping from his hair. Because I was a coward. The words hung heavy in the air, heavier than thunder. He took a slow breath, his voice low and rough. She was my fated mate. The bond hit like fire in moonlight. But I was young, already crowned, already surrounded by wolves who saw love as weakness. They said an Omega would curse my bloodline, weaken my heirs, ruin the throne. And I believed them. Saren's tears mixed with rain. So you broke her heart to keep your crown. Yes. His voice was a whisper of regret. And I lost both. The storm moved again, wind whipping through their cloaks, scattering the scent of truth and grief across the bridge. Aiden's anger flickered into confusion, but his blade didn't lower. If you truly regret it, why chase us now? Darius met his gaze, fierce and broken all at once. Because I felt her again. The night your power woke, I felt the bond scream through my soul. I thought it was Luna. But it was you. He took a step closer, and for the first time, his command softened to a plea. Let me see you. Let me see my children. Saren's voice shook. We're not your children. We're ghosts you made when you left her to die. Her words hit him like claws to the chest. He flinched, but didn't turn away. If ghosts can still feel, then I'll carry their pain until I fade. Aiden's knife dropped slightly. You don't even deserve to say her name. I know. Silence. Only rain and heartbeats. Then, suddenly, the wind shifted. From the mist at the far end of the bridge, torches flared, dozens of them. Soldiers. The Royal Guard. Captain Roan's voice boomed across the storm. Your Majesty. Step away from them. Darius didn't move. Aiden pulled Saren back, panic flashing in his eyes. They'll kill us. Darius turned sharply to the soldiers. No. Stand down. But Roan's expression was cold, unwavering. The council has ordered their capture. By royal decree, these two are enemies of the crown. By whose crown? Darius growled, his eyes flashing gold. Mine still sits on that throne. Roan hesitated, uncertain. The soldiers shifted nervously. Aiden grabbed Saren's hand. We need to go. But Saren didn't move. Her gaze was locked on Darius. If we run now, he'll die for us. Good, Aiden hissed. He deserves it. Saren's eyes filled with tears. And what if we do too? Before he could answer, lightning struck the bridge, splitting the world in half. The blast threw them backward. The river exploded into white spray. When the smoke cleared, Darius was on one side, blood running down his temple, his armor cracked. The twins were on the other, clutching each other as the bridge began to crumble beneath them. Saren screamed, "Aiden!" He reached for her. Their fingers brushing, then the stone gave way. Darius lunged forward, catching her wrist just before she fell. His hand burned where it touched her skin, the bond roaring awake like wildfire. For a moment, time froze again. Father and daughter, connected by blood and guilt and fate. Her eyes met his, glowing silver through the rain. "Why save me?" he whispered, his voice breaking, "because I already lost one Luna. I won't lose another." Then the stone shattered completely. Aiden shouted her name as the river swallowed them both, Saren and Darius, vanishing beneath the roaring flood. Blank, blank, the storm raged long into the night, howling through the ruins of the bridge. The guards searched until dawn, but there was no trace, only broken stone, drifting wood, and silence. Aiden stood at the riverbank, soaked, trembling, staring into the current that had taken everything he'd ever loved. When Captain Roan approached, he turned with eyes full of fury. "Tell your king this isn't over." Roan hesitated. "He's gone, boy." The current claimed them both. Aiden's voice cracked, wild with grief. "Then may the moon bring him back just so I can destroy him myself." He turned away, vanishing into the fog. And far downstream, under the pale light of dawn, the river carried two bodies toward the dark forest. One breathed weakly. The other stirred, eyes flickering open, gold meeting silver. Darius whispered her name, voice hoarse and full of wonder. "Saren?" She coughed, shivering, barely conscious. Where are we?" He looked around. The riverbank was wild, overgrown, far from the city's reach. "Somewhere the world can't see us." Then he looked up at the sky, where the storm had broken and the full moon still hung above them. Maybe this is where redemption begins. The first thing she felt was cold. A deep, bone-cutting chill that crawled through her skin and settled in her lungs. Then, pain. Every breath was a storm. Every heartbeat was a drum against her ribs. Saren opened her eyes. Above her, the forest canopy swayed like a living shadow, the morning light fighting to break through. Raindrops fell from the leaves, slow and steady, each one echoing like the ticking of a clock that didn't belong to this world. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then memory came rushing back, the bridge, the river, his hand catching hers, the fall. Her body jerked upright. "Aiden?" The forest didn't answer, only the sound of running water nearby. She pushed herself up, wincing as her arm throbbed. Her dress was torn, soaked through, her hair tangled with mud and leaves. The silver pendant her mother had given her, her last memory, was gone. Panic rose like a tide. "Aiden," she shouted again, her voice cracking. "Where are you?" Then she heard a groan behind her. She turned sharply. Lying against a fallen log was him. The Alpha King. Darius. His armor was cracked, his face pale, blood trailing down his neck. His chest rose and fell slowly, alive, barely. Saren froze. Her heart kicked hard. The man who had ruined her mother's life, had saved hers. For a moment, she wanted to walk away. Let the river finish what fate started. But when she saw his hand twitch, weak and trembling, something in her broke. She crawled closer. Her fingers hovered above his pulse, hesitant. It was faint, but steady. She whispered under her breath, "You should have let go." Yet her hands didn't listen. She tore a piece of her sleeve and pressed it to his wound. Hours passed in silence, broken only by wind and the distant calls of ravens. When Darius finally stirred, the world had turned gold with sunset. He groaned, eyes fluttering open. The first thing he saw was her, kneeling by the fire she had built. Her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dusk. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. "Luna," he whispered. Saren's head snapped up. "Don't call me that." His eyes focused, realizing who she was. "Saren?" She looked away, her jaw tightening. "You're lucky I didn't leave you to die." He managed a weak, grim smile. "You sound like her. Don't compare me to the woman you broke." The fire cracked between them. Two broken souls. One born of guilt, the other of pain. He tried to sit up, but she pushed him back down roughly. "You'll reopen your wound. You should have left me," he rasped. "You would have been safer." "Safe?" She laughed bitterly. "You hunted me across kingdoms, and now you talk about safety?" His gaze softened. "I didn't hunt you. I hunted my regret." The words hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, she couldn't speak. The flames painted his face in shades of gold and scarlet, every scar, every line telling stories of wars and mistakes she'd never known. Regret doesn't bring her back, she whispered. No, he said quietly. But maybe it can protect what's left of her. She froze. You mean me? He nodded. And your brother, if he lives. Her eyes snapped up. He is alive. Darius studied her. You sound sure. I feel him, she said softly, touching her chest. His anger burns like fire in my blood. For a long moment, Darius said nothing. Then he murmured, that's the bond of twins. Luna always said your souls would be one flame split in two. Saren's throat tightened. She turned her face away so he wouldn't see her tears. Don't talk about her like you remember her. I remember everything, he said hoarsely. Every word I said when I sent her away. Every night I heard the bond crying for her and ignored it. Every moon I saw and wished I could forget. Silence again. Only the forest breathing. The end. Darius slowly reached for something hanging from his neck. He unclasped a small chain and placed it in her hand. Saren froze. It was the silver pendant. Her mother's. I found it in the river, he said quietly. It belongs with you. Her fingers closed around it. She wanted to hate him. But the way he said it, the way his voice trembled, made her chest ache. After a long pause, she said softly, why save me? He looked at her like a man standing before judgment. Because the moon already punished me once. I won't defy her again. Saren met his eyes for the first time without rage, only sorrow. You think saving me will wash your sins? He shook his head. No, but maybe it'll give me a reason to keep breathing. She turned away, unable to bear the weight of his voice. For a while, they sat in silence, two lost wolves beneath a bleeding sky. Then, somewhere far off, a howl echoed through the forest. Deep, familiar, angry. Saren's eyes widened. Aiden. Darius's gaze sharpened. He found us. The air changed, wind shifting, leaves rustling, the night holding its breath. Saren stood, clutching the pendant. Her voice trembled. He'll kill you. Darius rose slowly, wincing, blood still staining his armor. Then I'll face him. A father should meet his son at least once, even if it's in battle. The wind turned cruel. Mist rolled through the trees, dragging whispers with it, the kind that carried memory and warning. Saren's pulse raced, each beat a drum summoning the storm she had prayed would never come. And then she saw him. Aiden. He stepped out of the forest like a blade unsheathed, eyes burning gold, the air around him shimmering with power barely caged. The boy she had grown up with was gone. In his place stood a storm wearing her brother's face. His gaze locked on Darius. No hesitation, no confusion, only wrath. You. The word ripped through the clearing, low and deadly. Darius straightened, though blood still dampened his armor. Aiden. The name made him flinch, because it sounded too much like the one Luna had whispered the night she gave birth. You dare speak my name? Aiden growled, his claws half-formed, catching the moonlight like steel. You killed her. You hunted us. Saren stepped between them, trembling. Stop, please. But neither man heard her. Darius's voice was quiet, almost broken. I hunted my mistakes. Not you. Aiden's laugh was hollow. Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? He moved, so fast the ground cracked beneath his boots. Darius blocked, claws meeting claws, the sound sharp as lightning splitting stone. Sparks flew. The air filled with the metallic scent of blood and fury. Saren screamed, enough, but the forest answered only with thunder. Aiden struck again, rage giving him strength beyond reason. She died because of you. Darius staggered back, breathing hard. You think I don't know that? Every breath I take reminds me she's gone. Then stop breathing, Aiden hissed. He lunged, but this time Darius didn't fight back. He dropped his guard. Aiden's claws froze inches from his throat. Confusion flickered behind his anger. Why won't you fight? Darius's eyes shone wet under the moon. Because I already killed enough of my blood. The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. Saren's heart twisted. She looked from one to the other, father and son, mirror and shadow, both drowning in ghosts. Aiden's hands shook. For the first time, doubt cracked his fury. You expect forgiveness? No, Darius said softly. Only truth. He reached slowly into his torn cloak and pulled out a small dagger. Its hilt was engraved with the symbol of their mother's pack, a crescent entwined with 2 stars. He laid it on the ground between them. She carried this the day she left me, he whispered. I've kept it ever since, waiting for the day I could give it to her children. Aidan stared at it. His jaw trembled. Liar. Look closely, Darius murmured. Your mother's mark is burned into the blade. No forger could copy that. Aidan hesitated, then crouched. The faint scent of lavender clung to the dagger, Luna's scent, the one that lived only in Saren's dreams. His breath caught. Mother. Darius took a step closer, voice breaking. I never stopped loving her. I was a fool, a coward, but I never stopped. Aidan's eyes glistened, torn between fury and grief. He raised his claws again but couldn't bring them down. His shoulders shook. She died alone, he whispered. Because you turned your back. I know. Darius's voice was a rasp. And if the moon would let me trade my life for hers, I would. The storm above them broke. Rain crashed down, washing the blood and dirt from their faces, mingling with tears they didn't know they shed. Saren stepped forward slowly. She placed her hands on Aidan's arms, lowering them. Brother, she whispered, don't let hate make you what he was. Aidan looked at her, the mirror of their mother's face, and something inside him gave way. The rage cracked. The boy returned for one brief heartbeat. He dropped to his knees. The dagger fell from his hand, landing in the mud. Darius exhaled, unsteady, and for the first time in years, reached out, not as a king, but as a father. Aidan hesitated, then let him. When their hands met, a shock of silver light surged through the clearing. The old bond, buried by pain, recognized its blood. Saren gasped. The mark on her wrist, crescent and flame, flared with light. The forest itself seemed to sigh. Darius whispered, the moon has not abandoned us yet. For a long moment, no one moved. Rain softened to mist. The storm drifted away, leaving only the quiet hum of the bond, fragile but alive. Then a howl echoed, distant, furious. All 3 turned toward the sound. Saren's voice shook. That's not one of ours. Darius's face hardened. No, that's the Alpha Council's hounds. Aidan rose, wiping the rain from his eyes. They found us. Darius drew his sword. Then we run. Saren's pendant glowed faintly, as if the moon itself whispered, run faster than fate. They vanished into the night, father, daughter, son, 3 wolves carrying the same scar, chased by the ghosts of the world they once ruled. Rain had not stopped since the night they fled. It fell in endless silver threads, turning the forest paths into rivers of mud and memory. The moon hid behind clouds, watching in silence as 3 shadows moved through the trees, Darius, Saren, and Aidan, father, daughter, and son bound by guilt and blood. Darius moved ahead, his wounded shoulder dark with fresh blood. Every branch that snapped beneath his boots sounded too loud. The hounds would hear. The council always heard. He glanced back once. Saren followed close, her cloak plastered to her skin, her eyes like pieces of broken glass catching what little light dared fall through the canopy. Behind her came Aidan, jaw set, rage in every breath. No words between them, only the sound of pursuit. By dawn the rain thinned, leaving mist that curled like ghosts around the trees. They stopped near an ancient ruin, stones split by roots, an altar half buried in moss. Darius leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Saren knelt beside him. You're bleeding again. He gave a dry laugh. It's what I do best. Don't joke, she said sharply. You'll die if you don't rest. He looked at her, and for a heartbeat, she saw not the king who destroyed her mother's life, but a man too tired to keep pretending to be iron. If I die, promise me you keep running. No, she whispered. Not again. Aidan stepped into the ruin, scanning the trees. They're close. I can smell the iron on their blades. His voice was low, cold. We can't outrun them forever. Darius nodded. Then we don't. We make our stand. Saren's eyes widened. You can't fight them all. I don't intend to. He pressed a hand against the altar stone. There's a way older than swords. A vow that even the moon remembers. The ground seemed to hum at his touch. Old carvings lit faintly under the moss, circles and crescents intertwined. Aidan frowned. What are you doing? Something I swore I'd never do again, Darius said softly. A blood oath. He drew a dagger from his belt, the same blade Luna once carried. He looked at Saren first. This oath will bind our lives. It will cost something. She swallowed. What? Freedom, he said simply. And part of my soul. Aiden stepped forward. Why? Oh, you don't get to decide for us. Darius met his gaze. Then decide with me. He placed the dagger on the altar. The stone pulsed faintly as if breathing. The scent of ozone filled the ruin. The blood of the Alpha, the blood of his heirs, the moon above, one life, one vow. Saren's pulse pounded. What does it do? It hides you, he said. As long as I live, no hunter can find you. Aiden's eyes narrowed. So you'll trade your life for ours. If that's the only coin fate accepts. Silence. Then Saren reached out, placing her hand over the blade. If you're bound, so am I. Aiden cursed softly. Saren, she cut her palm before he could stop her. Blood hit the altar, glowing silver. Darius stared in shock. Child, no, she said fiercely. You won't protect me by dying. We protect each other. The air trembled. Somewhere far above, thunder rolled though the sky was clear. Darius hesitated, then sliced his own palm, pressing it to hers. Their blood mingled, light spreading through the cracks of the stone. Aiden stood frozen, watching the glow crawl across the ruin. For the first time, fear crept beneath his anger. Brother, Saren said, meeting his eyes. If you walk away, I'll still find you. The bond will drag me. Aiden's throat worked. He stepped closer, hand trembling. Damn it, Saren. He cut his palm and laid it beside theirs. The moment their blood touched, the world shifted. The forest stilled. Every drop of rain hung suspended in the air. A pulse ran through the earth, a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. Then came the voice. Soft. Ancient. Everywhere. Blood for blood. The moon accepts. Light exploded outward, not blinding but pure, spreading through the forest like breath after drowning. When it faded, the altar was cracked and the sky above had cleared. Darius fell to one knee, gasping. The wound on his shoulder had stopped bleeding, but his eyes glowed faint silver. Saren steadied him. What happened? The oath is sealed, he whispered. You're invisible to their scent, to their eyes. But they'll come for me instead. Aiden shook his head. You think I'll let that happen? You must, Darius said, forcing a smile that looked almost peaceful. It's the only way you live. A horn sounded in the distance, long, mournful, too close. Saren turned. They're here. Aiden drew his claws. Then we finish this together. But Darius stood, drawing his sword, and stepped away from them. No, you finish nothing. You leave. The air around him shimmered, the power of the oath weaving like smoke around his armor. Saren's voice broke. Please, don't do this. He looked at her, and for the first time, smiled like a man freed from chains. Tell your mother's moon I kept my promise. He turned toward the trees as the first shadows emerged, hunters in silver armor, blades glowing with runes of the council. Go, he shouted. Aiden grabbed Saren's arm, pulling her back even as she fought him. He's giving us time. No, she screamed. He can't fight them all. Aiden's eyes shone with tears and fury. Then make his sacrifice mean something. They ran. The forest swallowed them, moonlight flickering through the branches. Behind them rose the sound of battle, steel meeting steel, the roar of a king who had finally found a reason to die well. Saren stumbled, turning back once. Through the trees she saw flashes of light, heard Darius's voice rise in a final cry that was half prayer, half promise. Then silence. She fell to her knees, sobbing, the pendant warm against her chest. Aiden knelt beside her, chest heaving. He's gone. She shook her head. No, he's part of the oath now. He lives in it. They stayed like that until dawn painted the horizon gold. Then Saren stood, wiping her tears. We keep moving. For him. For her. Aiden looked at her and saw the reflection of their mother's strength. Where do we go? She glanced toward the rising sun. Where the moon can't find us, but the story will. He almost smiled. That's nowhere. Then we'll make it somewhere, she said. Together they walked from the ruin, 3 shadows reduced to 2, their footsteps leaving no trace in the dew-damp grass. Behind them, in the clearing, the cracked altar glowed faintly one last time, as if a heart had chosen to beat inside the stone. And far above, the clouds broke, revealing the pale ghost of the moon watching in silence. The blood oath was complete. The hunt was not. The night was heavy with silence, the kind that carries both sorrow and promise. Snow whispered through the trees, settling over the mountains like a shroud, and beneath that frozen crown, two figures moved quietly through the dark, Saren and Aiden, survivors of blood and betrayal. They had left behind everything: the ruins of Darius's throne, the ashes of a kingdom built on cruelty, and the ghosts of everyone they once knew. The blood oath had bound their souls together, not as ruler and outcast, but as something far deeper, two halves of a story the world had almost erased. Saren walked ahead, her cloak torn, her breathing steady. Every step was a war against exhaustion. The bond between them pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat under her skin. She could feel Aiden's strength faltering behind her, could sense his pain, but she didn't stop. "Not yet. We're close," she whispered. Her voice was raw, but there was iron beneath it. Aiden looked up. The moonlight caught the scars along his jaw. "To what?" he rasped. "To whatever comes next." For days they had wandered through the wilds, hunted by rogues, shadowed by memories. The blood oath had changed them. When rage swelled, the eyes burned with the same silver flame. When one bled, the other felt it. Their hearts no longer beat alone. They reached a narrow valley where the river cut through black rock. A cave waited at its mouth, half hidden by ivy and mist. Saren pushed aside the vines, felt the breath of cool air, and stepped inside. It smelled of damp stone and time itself. She knelt by the stream that ran along the cave floor and dipped her hands into the water. Her reflection stared back, pale skin, haunted eyes, the mark of the alpha still faint on her neck, but beside it, a faint silver ring burned, the symbol of the oath. Aiden entered silently and set down what little they had carried. "Rest," he murmured, but Saren shook her head. "If we stop now, we'll never move again." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that remembered pain. "Then let me keep watch. Just for a while." She met his gaze, and something shifted, unspoken, trembling between them. The hatred that had once separated their kind had melted away, leaving only this fragile, dangerous tenderness. Outside, the storm gathered. Wind screamed across the cliffs, carrying the scent of wolves. Not allies. Not yet. Saren closed her eyes. She could feel them, far away, across the bond, their children. The twins, hidden by the elders of the mountain pack, kept safe since birth. The thought steadied her trembling heart. She whispered to the dark, "They will not live in fear." "Not as we did." And the darkness answered with thunder. Days passed. Snow gave way to rain. The world seemed to wake again. Aiden hunted. Saren healed. Yet every night, the same dream returned. Fire, a broken crown, and a pair of golden eyes watching from the shadows. One night, she woke gasping. The cave was bathed in faint blue light, the mark on her wrist glowing like frostfire. Aiden stirred beside her. "Saren? It's starting again," she whispered. The power that the blood oath had sealed inside them was awakening. Threads of energy shimmered between their hands when they touched. The air trembled with unseen force. The mountain itself seemed to bow before it. Aiden stared, wide-eyed. "What are we becoming?" "Something they feared," she said softly. "Something they tried to destroy." Outside, wolves howled, first one, then a dozen. But these howls carried no threat. They were a call. The mountain packs had felt the awakening too. When the pair stepped out into the dawn, a circle of wolves waited among the pines. Their eyes glowed silver, the mark of the old bloodline. The eldest among them, a gray she-wolf with scars across her muzzle, lowered her head. "Alpha," she said, her voice trembling through the bond. "The forest remembers you." Saren froze. The word, Alpha, had once been a curse. Now it felt like destiny returned. Aiden placed a hand on her shoulder. "Lead them," he whispered. She hesitated. "Lead them where? Into another war?" "No," he said. "Into peace. Or whatever we can make of it." For the first time in years, she let herself believe. Weeks turned into moons. The hidden pack began to rebuild beneath the mountain's shadow. Children played among the ruins of old dens. The air no longer smelled of smoke. Saren trained them quietly, teaching them to channel strength through calm, not rage. Aiden hunted with the young warriors, showing them how to fight with discipline, not cruelty. Together they forged something new, a sanctuary born of loss. But peace was fragile. Far beyond the forest, whispers carried on the wind. The old kingdom stirring, loyalists of the fallen Alpha gathering under a new banner. And among those whispers, a name, Darius. The first time Saren heard it, she went still as stone. He's dead, she said. Aiden looked at her, his voice low. Then why'd I feel his shadow every night? The fire crackled between them, spitting sparks that danced like ghosts. Saren turned toward the cave's mouth, eyes narrowing at the storm building over the peaks. He won't take them from us, she said. Not again. That night the twins returned. The pack had sent word. The children were strong now, faster than any of their age, eyes bright with silver light. When Saren saw them step through the mist, two mirror souls with the same stubborn spark, her knees nearly gave out. Aiden knelt beside her, awe written across his face. They're perfect. They're dangerous, Saren breathed. The blood of two alphas in one line. If the wrong wolves find out, they won't. Aiden's tone was fierce. We'll protect them. But even as he spoke, the twins' eyes flared faintly gold, not silver. Saren's heart stopped. Gold, the color of Darius's power. The blood oath had saved them from the curse, but it had not erased the old king entirely. His legacy ran in their veins. Saren gathered them close, her voice breaking. My little ones, whatever darkness you carry, we will teach you to master it. Months passed. The valley flourished. The twins grew. Saren watched them train under the moonlight, their laughter echoing where screams once lived. And yet, the gold in their eyes gleamed brighter with every passing night. One evening, as the moon turned blood-red over the ridge, Aiden found Saren standing alone. You feel it too, he said quietly. She nodded. He's calling to them. Aiden stepped closer. Then we call louder. He took her hands. Sparks rose where their skin met. The oath's power surged, lighting the dark like sunrise after endless winter. Together, he said. Always, she answered. The mountain trembled. The wolves howled. Power flared through the valley like wildfire. And in that storm of GHT and shadow, two children stood between love and legacy, the hidden heirs, rising at last. The valley no longer slept. Every night the wind carried whispers that were not the wind at all. They crawled through the trees, through the caverns, through the hearts of every wolf who had sworn to Saren's name. Whispers of a crown that should have stayed buried, and of a king who refused to die. Saren felt it first. The pulse under her skin, steady at first, then heavier, like the echo of another heartbeat that was not her own. She stood at the edge of the cliff, cloak beating against the storm, eyes locked on the horizon where thunder split the sky. Aiden came to her side. It's growing louder. Yes, she breathed. He's calling them again. Below, their children sparred in the clearing, silver and gold lights weaving around them, flashes of power too bright for mortals. The twins laughed when they fought, but tonight even their laughter sounded hollow. Something ancient was threading through their blood, awakening piece by piece. Aiden's jaw tightened. If he touches their minds, he won't. Saren's voice cracked like ice. Not while I still breathe. She turned, eyes burning with the same silver that once marked her as alpha. Gather the elders. We end this tonight. When the fire pit roared to life, every wolf in the valley gathered around it. The flames licked the dark like living things, turning fur and faces into gold. Saren stood at the center. The storm still raged outside, but inside that circle there was only breath and fear. The old power stirs again, she said. Darius's spirit feeds on the weakness in our hearts. He cannot be fought with claws. He must be faced where he lives, inside the bond itself. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. No wolf had ever challenged a spirit bound by blood. To enter that plane meant surrendering everything that tied you to life. Aiden stepped forward. Then we go together. Saren looked at him, long, steady, aching. You always do. The elders laid their hands on the twins' heads. The boy and girl closed their eyes. Between them, a circle of light bloomed, spinning faster and faster until the cave walls trembled. Saren took Aiden's hand and stepped into the glow. They fell into silence. Not darkness, something deeper. A place where time hung weightless. Echoes of memory shimmered like smoke around them. The wedding that never was, the betrayal, the night she vanished with the heirs. And through it all, a voice, smooth, cold, familiar. Saren. Her breath caught. From the void rose a figure cloaked in gold fire. The features she remembered too well, the king she had once been promised to, the alpha whose rage had burned the world. You took my heirs. Her fingers curled tighter around Aiden's. I saved them. You cursed them with your love, the spirit hissed. They carry me, even now. Every beat of their hearts is mine. The air thickened. Gold fire coiled toward her, but Aiden stepped in front of her, eyes blazing silver. Then you'll have to take them through me. The spirit laughed, and the sound shattered like glass. You? You were always the shadow, the lesser alpha. Aiden's voice was low but unshaken. Maybe, but shadows are patient, and they learn to hold the light. He lunged. Light met fire. The void exploded in color, silver against gold, love against memory. Saren joined him, her voice rising in a feral cry. The blood oath blazed open, wrapping them both in a storm of power. The spirit faltered. You cannot destroy me. I am their blood. No, Saren whispered, stepping closer, but they can choose whose blood they honor. She called out across the void, my children, hear me. In the waking world, the twins gasped. Their eyes flared, half gold, half silver, a storm raging behind their irises. They heard their mother's voice as clearly as their own thoughts. Follow the light, my loves. Remember who you are. The boy reached for his sister. Their palms met. The gold bled away from their eyes until only silver remained. Inside the spirit realm, Darius screamed. The fire broke apart, scattering like sparks across water. Saren fell to her knees. The silence that followed was absolute. Aiden caught her before she hit the ground. It's over, he whispered. She opened her eyes. No, it's beginning. They woke in the cave with dawn streaming through the cracks. The twins slept beside them, peaceful for the first time since birth. Outside, the valley hummed, alive, renewed, waiting. Saren rose slowly. The mark on her wrist no longer burned, it glowed steady, calm. She walked to the mouth of the cave and looked at the horizon. A soft breeze brushed her face, carrying the scent of rain and pine. Aiden came behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. He's gone. Not gone, she said. Changed. Returned to the blood as he should have. He smiled against her hair. So what now, Alpha? She looked down at the valley, where wolves were beginning to stir, families, children, hope. Now we build. Not empires. Homes. That night, when the stars spilled across the sky like shards of glass, the twins stood beside their parents on the cliff. The boy turned to Saren. Will the world ever know who we are? She knelt, brushing his hair back. Maybe someday. But power is not what makes you worthy. What you do with it does. The girl smiled faintly. Then we'll make it a kinder world. Saren's throat tightened. That's all I ever wanted. Aiden reached for her hand. Their fingers intertwined, the bond between them glowing one last time, silver light winding up to the stars. In the distance, the wolves howled, not in mourning, but in promise. The echo rolled through the mountains, carrying a new name for the ages to come, the Lycan King and the Luna of the new dawn. And somewhere, in the deep heart of the forest, the wind whispered what every soul already knew, that love, even when broken, can still become the crown that saves them all. The valley slept under the silver veil of dawn. Mist rose from the rivers like breath, curling over the cliffs and trees, soft as a blessing. Where once there had been war, there was now quiet, the kind of quiet that belongs only to places that have been broken and healed again. Saren walked alone along the ridge. Her cloak fluttered behind her, catching the first light of morning. The wolves were still in their dens, the pack at peace. And for the first time in years, her heart did not ache with fear. Below, she could see the new village rising, small homes built of stone and timber, children's laughter echoing where the wind once carried cries. The air smelled of life again, and when she closed her eyes, she could almost hear the mountain hum. It was as if the land itself was beginning to breathe. Aiden found her there, his hair tousled by the breeze, eyes warm beneath the glow of sunrise. You're up early again. She smiled faintly. I wanted to see it. Every time I look, I still can't believe it's real. He stepped beside her, gazing at the valley below. It's real because you never stopped fighting for it. Saren turned to him. The light painted his scars gold. No, it's real because we didn't. For a while, they simply stood there, Alpha and Luna, no crowns, no thrones. Just two souls who had survived the storm together. At the heart of the valley, the twins were training. Their power had softened now, not the wildfire it once was, but a controlled, shimmering glow. When they fought, it was graceful. When they laughed, it echoed like hope. Saren watched from the ridge, her voice a soft whisper. Do you think they'll remember all of this? Aiden followed her gaze. Maybe not the pain, but the strength, yes. That never fades. They'll have to lead one day. They will, he said. But not yet. Let them be children a little longer. She nodded. The truth was simple, peace was fragile, but so was joy. And she wanted them to know both. That night, under the new moon, the pack gathered. No torches, no ceremony, only a quiet celebration beneath the stars. The wolves sat in a wide circle, eyes gleaming in the dark. Saren stood at the center, the soft wind tangling her hair. Aiden joined her, their hands brushing. The twins stood beside them, their eyes bright silver in the moonlight. Saren raised her face to the sky. We were not born to rule, she said softly, but to remember. To protect Hat was forgotten. To make a home where the broken can belong. Her voice trembled slightly, but every word carried power. Let the old stories fade. Let new ones rise from our blood. Let the moon bear witness. The pack howled, a single, haunting sound that rolled across the valley, echoing off stone and forest until it reached the heavens. Aiden whispered near her ear, "You sound like a queen again." She smiled. Then let this be a crown of peace. Later, when the fires had died and the pack had gone to rest, Saren wandered back to the cliff alone. The stars were bright tonight, sharp and endless. She could almost feel them watching, as if the spirits of those long gone still lingered, silent and proud. A shape moved behind her. "You never sleep," Aiden murmured. "Maybe I'm afraid I'll wake and find it all gone." He laughed quietly. "Then I'll stay awake too." He drew her close, their foreheads touching. "Do you hear that?" She listened. The mountain breeze carried faint whispers, not of war this time, but of songs. The wolves were dreaming, their hearts beating in rhythm. The world was alive again. "Yes," she whispered. "It's the sound of tomorrow." When dawn came, the first light caught the edge of the new settlement. The twins ran down toward the river, laughter spilling like sunlight. The pack followed, their voices joining in joy. And on the ridge, Saren and Aiden watched, hands entwined. "Do you think they'll ever know how close we came to losing everything?" she asked. Aiden smiled, eyes on the horizon. "Maybe they don't need to. Maybe it's enough that they never have to feel it." She rested her head against his shoulder. "Then we did something right." The sun rose fully, painting the world in gold and fire. The mist lifted. The valley shone. Far off, among the highest peaks, something glimmered, faint, almost unseen, the old crown, cracked and half-buried, catching the morning light before vanishing forever. And as the new day began, the wind carried one last whisper through the trees, gentle, eternal. Love endures. Even in silence, it reigns. And so ended the tale of the Luna who vanished, and the king who found her again, not in a palace, but in peace. And that was the end of the Luna's story, a tale of love that defied blood, time, and destiny itself. If this story touched your heart, don't let it fade here. Hit subscribe, join our pack, and let's keep walking together through worlds of love, loss, and rebirth. Every week, a new story rises, full of mystery, emotion, and the kind of romance that lingers long after the last word. Turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next chapter. Because somewhere out there, another alpha waits, another heart breaks, and another legend is born. Thank you for listening. Until next tea time, stay wild, stay kind, and keep believing in the power of love.